Introduction to Rasa Shastra, the Art of Vedic Alchemy, Volumes 1 through 4. I embarked on this project late in 2006. Between the end of 2004 and the late summer of 2005, I was engaged on an Ayurvedic study program in the south of Sri Lanka, near the capital, Colombo. My principal reason for being here was to study Vedic alchemy, known as Rasa Shastra. Working from a private hospital buried deep in the capital, I was able to work unhindered for the entire duration of my stay, methodically making my way through as many preparations as possible. Although a number of preparations could be completed at this facility, any more sophisticated processing required a specific type of environment, something away from the general populace. To this end, it was necessary to journey into the countryside, where the hospital had a small production facility. Here, in one of the outlying rural suburbs, their own brand of medicines were being made on a daily basis. This production facility was to become my training ground for the next year. Here, my practical tutelage into the manufacture of these medicines really began in earnest. The culmination of these studies was a rather large collection of photographs and notes, which, upon returning to the UK, I had the rather unenviable task of collating and correctly ordering. Having worked my way through these notes a second time, gaining a much higher level of clarity over the material I'd recorded, I was then faced with a question: what was I to do with the information I'd amassed? The most obvious solution seemed to be the use of some digital format, and having looked through the various options, I decided that the PowerPoint format would best suit my needs. Its functionality would enable you to literally lay up thousands of slides, which is exactly what I was looking for. Also, the use of hyperlinks would allow the viewer to move seamlessly around inside the slideshow. Additionally, I wanted the slideshow to appear very much like a book, and so unlike a regular slideshow, there is quite a lot of textual information in amongst the slides. Having introduced the concept behind these slides, we'll now take a short tour of each volume and its contents. Volume 1 in this series really discusses the bedrock of this science. Beginning with Parida, or mercury, one of the essential ingredients of many rasa medicines, I devote one whole section to the exploration of mercury and its use as a medicine. In this section, I outline some of the traditional methods used in purifying this metal, as well as methods that can reduce this element into a state that can be absorbed by the body, incurring as little toxicity or adverse side effects as possible. Following on from Parida, the next section is Maharasa, or Great Rasa. In this section, I explore the purification and preparation of a number of materials featured in this category of rasa. These include mica, copper pyrite, iron pyrite, shilajit, copper sulfate, and calamine. In each instance, I explore multiple methods of purification, as well as a technique known as amritakarana, or nectarization. This final and crucial process removes any last vestiges of toxicity within the material. Wherever possible, this final addition to the purification process has been considered in some detail. The following 5 sections in this presentation are Uparasa, Sadhana Rasa, Dhatu, Ratna, and Uparatna. These represent the subsequent tiers of materials used in rasa medicine. The following slides detail a few of these materials, but let's just look briefly at one or two important categories. Firstly, Dhatu, which here is taken to mean metal. The medicinal properties of metal are particularly important in Rasa Shastra, and it is here that mercury's ability to amalgam or bond with these metals that makes it such an important base for many rasa medicines. In the ancient world, a number of metals were important in this regard, primarily gold, silver, copper, iron, tin, lead, and the alloys brass and bronze, although brass was a somewhat later addition to this list. Interestingly, gemstones also find themselves in the list of rasa ingredients, and these have been divided into 2 categories, precious and semi-precious. It should also be noted here that items such as red coral and pearl found themselves in the category of precious stones, and in many ways similar to metal, having deeply rooted connections to the subjugation of mercury. Selecting a few important materials from Volume 1 and revisiting them in much greater depth, Volume 2 attenuates its focus on some key elements used in Rasa Shastra. One of these materials is cinnabar, one of the principal sources of mercury. In the second volume, I explore the extraction methods of mercury from cinnabar, sublimating mercury directly from one of its principal ores. There's also a closer examination of the purification of sulfur, looking at several popular methods to purify this element. Other notable materials in this volume include pearls and mother-of-pearl shell, Kapardica, or the cowrie shell, and Nagapashana, or snakestone, better known as serpentine. This volume also dedicates some considerable space to the purification and processing of lapis lazuli and turquoise, two closely associated materials in the category of semi-precious stones. Finally, this volume explores the processing methods of yellow arsenic and the manufacture of rasamanika, a popular drug in Ayurvedic medicine. In contrast to the other two volumes, Volume 3 deals almost exclusively with toxic plant materials. Toxic plant material has also been divided into two categories. These are Visha and Upavisha, Visha meaning toxicity or poison. Just like minerals and metals, plant material also requires some level of purification. But in contrast to the former, these methods are much more simplistic, often soaking the chosen plant material in a number of fluids, such as milk, cow's urine, or various types of oil, including mustard seed oil and sesame seed oil. As an aside, the category of Visha only contains one plant, and that's aconite. However, this category is shared by snake venom, more specifically the venom of a cobra. Here, it seems, the ancients held a particular reverence for cobra venom, intuiting the need to place snake venom in amongst the toxicity of certain plant materials. Volume 4 is the last in this series, and in some ways, perhaps the most ambitious. Totaling nearly 1,000 slides, this volume is split into three distinctive parts. Firstly, I look at the purification processes of antimony, and secondly, those of galena, or lead sulfide. The next section is dedicated to the purification of cinnabar and magnetic iron ore. The middle section of the presentation is devoted to Shuddha, that is, the wide variety of calcium carbonates coming from both mineral and animal sources. This section includes items such as eggshell, chalk, limestone, corals, and some naturally occurring examples of calcium silicates. This section is concluded by taking a brief look at the manufacture of metal ingots. This section on dhatu, metals, includes zinc, bronze, brass, and vataloha, a curious mix of 5 metals, used both in a medicinal capacity as well as being used to cast astrological amulets. The third section focuses on a number of completed remedies, as well as one or two oddities used within Rasa Shastra favoured for their special medicinal properties. The first of these remedies are based upon potassium nitrate. Sweta-parpati and Chitta-parpati literally heat and liquefy a mixture of 3 salts, or in the latter's case, a mixture of salt and sulfur, before pouring them onto a banana leaf. When solidified, this material can be reground into a fine white powder and mixed with a number of accompanying herbs. Other preparations include those based on iron, known as loha. Iron is a particularly potent remedy in Rasa Shastra, considered to have powerful rasayana effects, that is, those effects which seek to rejuvenate the body. Loha shows a particular affinity to the circulatory system, the heart, blood, and eyes. Preparations containing this metal can be both complex and quite simplistic. One very popular iron remedy, used sometimes to the exclusion of all others, is Sapta Amrita Lauha, which is literally a mixture of iron, 2 herbs, honey, and ghee. This will be administered 2 to 3 times a day, and is particularly good for any diseases connected to the eyes. I'll end the discussion on this particular volume by looking at the couple of oddities I mentioned earlier. One of these is Agnijara, or ambergris, as it's more popularly known in the West. This curious material appears to be a byproduct of the sperm whale's digestive tract. It's not entirely clear if this material forms due to a digestive disorder within the whale, or is a naturally occurring byproduct of its normal food source. Agnijara is extremely hard to come by, and only found on some of the world's most remote beaches. However, pieces do find themselves eventually washed up on shores in a number of locations around the world. Although this material is extremely rare and extremely expensive, it does appear in a number of important Rasa Shastra remedies. In this same section appearing with Agnijara, I also include the herb Campella, Gugalu, and Hing, also known as Asafoetida. While the latter two aren't strictly rasa materials, they do appear quite frequently in rasa medicines, one improving digestive ability, while the other has an affinity with removing deep-seated toxins in the body with its deep, penetrating and scraping actions. We've now reached the end of this brief presentation, and I hope this short foray into these 4 volumes has been informative. For more information about these volumes, please visit the website given at the end of this presentation. For those wishing to gain more information about these volumes, I recommend visiting the Rasa Shastra webpage and clicking on one of the 4 icons which represent the covers of these volumes. Here, a short PowerPoint presentation can be downloaded and viewed at your leisure. Thank you again for viewing this short introduction.